Katie Lansell-Smith is an international model and industry ambassador for HNS Foundation, which stands for Healthy is the New Skinny. Katie has modelled in Australia, Germany and the UK, and she writes articles discussing healthy body image and studied media journalism and cultural studies. Thank you so much for joining us, Kate.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be speaking with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm glad we've got you on the line now because Fiona and I aren't the most technical people and sometimes we lose phone calls. Because we're going to talk about body image today with you. And look, for so many of us women, especially when we are young, our self-esteem can be linked to how we perceive we look. And you're a beautiful woman and a model and you've suffered from poor body image in the past. So why do you think this was the case?
I can't speak for other people. I can, speak for myself. And I was 6 foot at the age of 10. So I think a lot of really tall women have quite bad body image because at such a young age, you stand out when everyone else is so much smaller than you, and kids can sometimes be, they don't know any better. They can be quite cruel when it comes to those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it really sort of started with me.
Yes. Well, it's a big difference being 10 years old and being 6 foot. That's compared to the average 10-year-old, you would have stood out a lot. And when you stand out, you're sort of more a target, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're younger as well, because children say things and do things without really realising the consequences of their actions and their words.
Yeah. So what does healthy today mean to you?
Healthy, I think it's a state of mind. Like, the most important thing I think that someone can possess is to have so much confidence in themselves and to think positively, and eating well and exercising and all that kind of stuff is so important. But if you're not actually healthy in your headspace, then I think that just affects so many areas of your life.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Focusing so much on the health of food and exercise.
Yeah, because it's very important. It all comes in hand, doesn't it? That we look after ourselves, but also our emotional, mental state. So what if we have got really bad body image, how can that affect our lives?
Well, I think that it affects someone's life in such a major way because I think if you have really positive body image about yourself, you really like yourself and you really believe in yourself. So that helps you, from everyday life to interacting with people, job interviews, school, studying, all those sorts of things. So I think if you don't have healthy body image, I think that it's your confidence that's affected, which basically is the key to everything, I think, your ability to believe in yourself.
Yeah, and it's important to mention too that just even if you've got what other people perceive as a good body, doesn't mean that you do have good, healthy body image, does it? And confidence.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, like some of the most ideal kind of beauties and bodies that we look in magazines at these women, and so many women have the worst body image, yet from the exterior you would think, oh my gosh, she's perfect. And I think that kind of goes unnoticed as well. People think if you look good that you've just automatically got this amazing confidence, which very much is like not so for so many women.
And how did you get to a point that you accept yourself and you're happy in your own skin?
Taken me quite a long time. I feel like I got to a point where I thought I was constantly surrounded by, a lot of women that were always dieting, talking about diet, commenting on other people and other people's bodies. So I suddenly just decided, you know what? I really just want to have this great relationship with myself. So I completely removed myself from reading any diet books, any fashion magazines, anything that was going to make me feel like I wasn't good enough. And I just focused so much on loving myself and positive reinforcement, going through everything that I loved about myself and taking away the whole focus on how I looked. And I was started thinking, wow, you're really good at talking to people and really good at writing. And, I started focusing on things that had nothing to do with my looks. And
yes, which is really important, isn't it?
I think it's so important. I mean, my mum is incredible. And growing up, if anyone ever said to her, oh, you know, your daughters are so beautiful and look how they look like this, she would always say, thank you, but I'd love it if you could tell them how good they are at things, like their character, you know, really build them up like that.
Yeah, no, that is really important. So what advice would you give those struggling to accept the way they look or if they've got poor self-esteem?
First and foremost, stop dieting and reading fashion magazines. And I think that would be one of the most important things, especially for teenage girls.
Yeah.
And I would really start to build a really great relationship with yourself. And that really happens, I think, when you learn to not listen to other people or be so impressed by other people. And obviously you want to respect other people, but get to that point where you really don't care if someone is going to be rude to you or be negative to you. It's getting that confidence.
Yes.
And I think that's really the key to sort of getting to that point where you're like, you know what, I love myself and I trust myself. And, you know, and I think that really helps.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what about what if we have somebody that we love that is suffering from poor body image or some sort of eating disorder? What can we do for someone that we care for to support them?
They often say it doesn't matter how much you can tell someone how great they are. Best thing that you can do is shine in your own light, you know what I mean, and be confident in yourself. And if you're a mother and your daughter has an eating disorder or just really poor body image, if you have great body image and you know, have so much, you know, confidence, and that is so much more beneficial to her than you sitting there trying to tell her to have confidence. Because I think the most important thing would be to just really remove any sort of conversation regarding her looks, other people's looks, weight, food in a negative way. You know, everything has to be really positive, really about nurturing yourself and how yummy food is and, you know, instead of thinking about, you know, eat this because you'll lose weight. And I think that's so important to just take away any negative conversation towards looks.
Yeah.
Do not comment about something that you don't like about yourself because they really pick up on that.
Yes.
You know, if someone's sitting there saying, oh, you know, I feel really fat today, and daughter sitting next to you, she would just take that on straight away and think, oh, I feel fat.
I think you've got a really good point because I know in terms of, you know, parents and children's eating habits that the child tends to model off the same-sex parent. So if their mother has got a good relationship with food, the daughter tends to follow in the same suit. So that's quite common. So that's a really good point. And we've got to sort of round it out because we're running out of time. But you've got some really good points for people to take home that if we're going to concentrate on the aesthetics of ourselves, we can't, it's not something that's ever really going to drive us to happiness, is it?
No, never. And it's quite funny. The moment you let go of trying to be perfect is you're more likely to get the results that you want. Just kind of learn to let go.
Yeah.
And just go with your gut.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a beautiful message, Katie. And thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.